Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are tackling a genuinely massive topic in pharmacology, and I promise you, we are going to completely shift how you learn it. If you're absolutely tired of passive rote memorization, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to master beta blockers, and we're going to build an active, highly logical understanding from the ground up so that it actually sticks for good.
Okay, let's dive into this. The brutal truth of the matter is, reading is not studying, and recognition is definitely not recall. Just think about how you studied beta blockers the last time around. You probably opened up your thick pharmacology textbook, read 3 incredibly dense pages, and, highlighted almost everything because, let's be real, it all felt important. You probably read a list of drug names like 5 times the night before the big exam. And hey, you probably even passed. But 2 weeks later, it was gone. Literally all of it. Why? Because reading just isn't studying. Simply recognizing a word on a page is a totally different ballpark than actually recalling its function. Isolated facts just don't stick in our brains.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're covering 1. The memorization trap. 2. The core mechanism. 3. The 3 generations. 4. Logical clinical uses. 5. The block mnemonic. And finally, 6. The daily review system.
Section 1. The memorization trap, moving beyond isolated facts.
We have all felt that intense, really heavy stress of desperately cramming a massive list of drug names and side effects into our heads. But your brain actually isn't designed to hold on to random disconnected information. It literally craves systems. So today, we build the system. We're starting right at the mechanism, because once you truly understand what beta blockers do inside the human body, every single other fact is going to click into place automatically. You stop memorizing and you start understanding.
Section 2. The core mechanism. What beta blockers actually block.
To really understand these drugs, we first need to look at their targets. In your body, you've got beta-adrenergic receptors, and there are 2 main types you absolutely need to know. We have beta-1 receptors, and those are found mainly in the heart. Then we have beta-2 receptors, which are found mainly in the lungs and the blood vessels. Normally, when your sympathetic nervous system gets stressed out, it dumps adrenaline. That adrenaline rushes in and binds to these receptors. At beta-1, it tells your heart rate to shoot up and contract with a lot of force. At beta-2, it tells your airways to relax and open up, and your blood vessels to dilate.
Now, here's the golden question you should always ask about any drug. What happens when you block that receptor instead of activating it? I want you to pause and just think about the physiological opposite for 2 seconds. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next. When a beta blocker comes in and sits on that receptor, it physically stops the adrenaline from binding. So the exact opposite happens. The heart rate slows down, the contractions get weaker, and blood pressure drops. Think of adrenaline as speeding traffic on a busy, chaotic highway. The beta blocker is literally a speed bump that controls and slows that traffic down to a safe, super manageable pace. It literally calms the heart down. I want you to really hold on to that speed bump image.
Section 3. The 3 generations. Classifying by selectivity.
All right, now that we have the biological mechanism locked in, we can easily categorize these drugs. Because, you see, not all beta blockers are created equal. Understanding generation selectivity is exactly what separates a good student from a truly great one. The key question for each generation is simply, how selective is it? Generation 1 blockers, like propranolol and nadolol, are non-selective. They block both beta-1 and beta-2 receptors. They just do not discriminate. Generation 2 blockers, however, are cardioselective. They prefer beta-1 receptors in the heart and mostly leave the lungs alone. The key players here are metoprolol and bisoprolol. Finally, we've got Generation 3 blockers, like carvedilol and nebivolol. These guys block beta receptors, but also add extra vasodilatory effects, which means they actually help widen the blood vessels even further.
Now, what's really interesting about this is a massive shortcut for exam day. Take a look at the cardioselective drugs: metoprolol, atenolol, bisoprolol, esmolol. Do you notice a pattern there? They mostly have that double olol suffix. While most beta blockers end in just a single olol, spotting that double olol is a fantastic, incredibly fast recognition tool when you're sweating it out under pressure.
Section 4. Logical clinical uses. When and why doctors prescribe them.
You know, the clinical applications of these drugs aren't just random. You don't need to memorize some disconnected list because they flow beautifully and directly from that exact speed bump mechanism we just built. Since beta blockers reduce heart rate and cardiac output, they bring the blood pressure down, making them absolutely vital for hypertension.
For angina, which is that chest pain caused by the heart not getting enough oxygen, well, slowing the heart reduces its overall workload, meaning there's less oxygen demand and consequently less pain. Simple and highly logical. For arrhythmias, slowing the electrical conduction helps control those abnormal rapid heart rhythms. And post-myocardial infarction, so after a heart attack, they protect the damaged heart from any further stress.
Now, there is a very specific number you absolutely must remember, and that number is 3. In heart failure, the sympathetic nervous system goes into overdrive, and it drives a struggling heart way, way too hard. There are exactly 3 beta blockers proven to reduce mortality by protecting the heart long-term from this overactivation. You'll want to write these down: carvedilol, metoprolol succinate, and bisoprolol. Examiners absolutely love that fact, and clinicians use it every single day.
Section 5. The block mnemonic. Side effects and contraindications. Okay, so we've talked about the clinical benefits. Now let's shift over to the drawbacks. I'm going to give you a really powerful mnemonic right now so you never have to rely on rote memorization for a random list of side effects ever again. Because beta blockers literally block things, our mnemonic is simply block. B is for bradycardia, meaning they can slow the heart down a little too much. L is for lethargy and depression. Now, really look at the capitalized O in bronchospasm. This visually locks in that dangerous beta-2 airway constriction we talked about earlier, which is absolutely critical to remember for asthma patients. C is for cold extremities, which happens due to reduced peripheral blood flow. And finally, notice the capitalized K in masking hypoglycemia. They can actually hide the warning signs of low blood sugar, which is a heavily tested concept and incredibly dangerous to miss in your diabetic patients. Let's move to and see how this builds. You see, these side effects directly dictate our contraindications. Imagine a patient who has heart failure and hypertension, but no respiratory disease. Well, a vasodilatory beta blocker like carvedilol is a fantastic choice here. But if a patient has asthma and hypertension, because of that bronchospasm risk we literally just learned about, a non-selective beta blocker is completely the wrong choice. The clinical context always dictates the drug choice.
Section 6. The daily review system, locking in the knowledge. So you've got a complete, highly logical picture of beta blockers now. But let's be real, knowing something once just isn't enough. Here is a highly actionable 4-step system to ensure this ground-up understanding stays securely in your long-term memory permanently. Think of this as a chronological staircase of active recall. Day 1, build. That's exactly what you did today by learning the mechanism and that block mnemonic. Day 3, test. Take a totally blank page and write down everything you remember, and only put the gaps back into your study routine. Day 7, apply. Find a clinical case and apply this new knowledge to a real patient scenario, because application is the absolute highest level of learning. And finally, day 30, recall. Give yourself a quick 3-minute test right from memory. I promise you, if you follow this exact protocol, it elevates you to the very highest level of mastery.
Which brings me to a truly provocative challenge for you. Will you actually do the work to remember this for the rest of your career? The students who actually execute these 4 steps, they're going to retain this knowledge forever. The ones who just passively watch this explainer and move on, they'll probably forget most of it by next week. The difference here isn't some innate intelligence, it's simply whether or not you do the work. The system is right here waiting for you. Dive in and make it stick.